Почитувани гледачи, во Македонија дојде професорот Димитрис Христопулос од Пандио универзитетот во Атина. Тој во Скопје ќе ја промовира својата книга 10+1 прашање и одговори за македонското прашање. А со професорот Христопулос имаме и едно интервју тука во телевизија 24 и со него ќе поразговараме за договорот од Преспа, но и за оние дилеми и прашања кои произлегуваат од него. Professor Christopoulos, welcome here in TV24. I want, when we talk about the Prespa agreement, there are opponents of the agreements here in Macedonia, but also there are opponents in Greece. We know about the political opponent of the agreement. That is in some case understandable because the opposition is doing that its thing here in Greece also. But what about those opponents who are sincerely opposing the agreement? What are they saying about this agreement? Because in the end of the line, the agreement is in line with the Greek red lines that were told before about the erga omnes, about the complex name and those things that were agreed between the Greek political parties.
Every international agreement represents the point of consensus of two different opposing views. And if it does not represent a consensus, but it is an agreement which is imposed by one party to the other one, it will not last. So this agreement represents for me an honest compromise, because on the one hand it satisfies the Greek line, which was a composite name for the state, but on the other hand offers the Macedonian side the right to Macedonian nationality and the Macedonian language. These two, the recognition of a Macedonian nationality and the Macedonian language, is what creates, what feeds the arguments of the opponents of the agreements in Greece.
What are the arguments? Because the agreement itself...
The arguments who were always there, nothing changed.
Because the agreement represents the right of the second side to self-determination. So the arguments are about the issue that led to the agreement, right? Of the Macedonian national identity, what is Macedonian identity, who is belonged to, and etc.
The opponents to the agreement have the argument that you cannot recognize something which falsifies the Greek history and so on, which is something that until very recently was the semi-official or even official line of the Greek state. So the opponents of the agreement stick to the fact that the Macedonian side keeps the right to call its identity Macedonian, its nationality Macedonian, its language Macedonian, and so on. And this is something which creates the frustration, because these people have been cultivated politically with an idea that such things do not exist.
Now, about the agreement itself, about the solution in the agreement, about Macedonian terms, Macedonian, not only about the people and the language, but about the term Macedonian itself. What do you think? Will this agreement last? And will this agreement satisfy the Greek side, the people in Greece who consider themselves as Macedonians?
We need to distinguish, in the first place, a regional identity from a national identity. The Greek Macedonian identity is a regional identity which belongs to the Greek nationhood, whereas it's different when it comes to the Macedonian identity here, which is related to a different state and a different nation. That is my first point. And that is extremely important for the Greeks to understand. The second point that I think it's important for the people here to understand is that this agreement finishes, or tries at least to finish, a very difficult and a very painful period in the bilateral relations, a period which has created reasonable frustration here and has intoxicated, has contaminated also the Greek and the Macedonian side. I think that as I said to you, every international agreement lasts if there is sincere commitment to its terms. So, if this happens, the agreement will last. If one of the parties does not show sincere commitment to the terms of the agreement, then the agreement will fall. But I am optimist, because what I see is that after 28 years, at last, particularly in the side of the Greek government, but also in the side of your government here, there is a sign that people can communicate in order to turn the difficult page and continue to the other one. We need to approach, we need to see again our books of history, we need to see again our past. You need to see also your national past in a way which will be self-critical, as the Greek side has to do. But this is how history goes. This is how history goes. Imagine that in Europe, much more important disputes than the Greek-Macedonian one have been resolved, and today you see that the European Union is the result of the axis of two great national opponents, Germany and France. Why not here? I do not see any point why continuing this thing. We have created here an Orientalist perception according to which in the Balkans you cannot find solution to the problems. I think this is a perception which underestimates the rationale of the people, and also is a perception which is imported from the so-called developed Europe to the so-called undeveloped Balkans. I think that this is not the case. I think what Prespa agreement shows is that there is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully 2018, after having spent a big part of our lives in this name dispute, we are able to turn the page. And I'm happy for this.
We have interesting development in Greece because the Prime Minister Tsipras has said that the Parliament will ratify the agreement, that he have a political majority. We have a strong opponent from Nea Demokratia. That is understandable, but the problem is with his coalition partner, Mr. Kamenos, who said that he will not vote the agreement and that he will get out of the government. How will they solve this issue? Mr. Giannakopoulos has said that they will have the majority at least, but Mr. Kamenos is not standing from his positions.
I think, yes, you're putting a difficult political questions in terms of tactic. What I can say, and that is something which can be advocated, is the fact that the Parliament is an ensemble of members of Parliament, not of political parties. So we have, I think that there is a majority of members of Parliament belonging to different political parties. So I think that the ruling party will get the majority they want. When it comes to the minor partner of the Greek government, I think that there is a major issue, and that is why, as I understood, yesterday it has been decided that the Greek side will ratify the agreement somewhere at the beginning of spring, which means that maybe it can bring developments to the government also itself.
So you think, besides these statements, that there will be a majority in the Parliament at the end for ratification?
Yes, because apart from the party of Mr. Kamenos, there are members of the Greek Parliament outside Syriza who are willing to vote for the agreement, and this creates a slight but strong majority.
About your book, 10+1 questions and answers about the Macedonian questions. Can you tell us something about the book, and especially in the light of this agreement?
This book was written in March and February-March 2018, when we both people learned that the negotiations are ongoing regarding the name dispute. We wrote the book because we felt the need, along with the co-author and colleague, Mr. Karpozilos. We wrote the book in the perspective of trying to demystify some ideas which are still very solid when it comes to the Greek perceptions of the Macedonian issue, and we did it in a way which was not heavy academic. We did it in a simple way which enables a wider public to have access to the knowledge which is provided in the book. And I think the book served its purpose because some fundamental facts of history presented in an objective way, in a calm way, were projected in this book, and the result was that a big part of the Greek public who was not familiar with some of these facts understood what is the major point that created this dispute. There are things that seem irrational, but even the irrational has a point in history. Nothing is meaningless.
Can you give us an example of something from your book?
An example coming from the book, for example, is the fact that the use of antiquity for shaping current national identities of modernity is something that does not correspond to any political, historical, or academic standards. The use of antiquity from the Greek side and the use of antiquity from the Macedonian side. So, who was Alexander the Great can be an issue that historians can discuss, but the identity of Alexander the Great has nothing to do with your current national identity or with the Greek regional identity of Macedonians and so on. For example, that is something which is extremely important for the Greek side to understand, because the antiquity discussion has contaminated not only the discussion between the two countries, but the minds of people, as I can see in the center of your capital and as I can see in the minds of my people.
Because as I heard your argument and about your book, and on the other side, when we know about the public opinion in Greece, that two-thirds of the Greeks are opponent of the issue that involves the name Macedonia in the agreement. What is your experience with the people in Greece, with the ordinary people, when you talk about these things? Because we can see that your opinion is in minority in Greece.
The book does not provoke. The book is written in a way which tries calmly to say a few things, elementary things. Obviously, there are people who feel provoked. There are people in Greece who feel frustrated. But I can tell you that the reception of the book was very good. The book is already in its third edition. Most of the times people wrote about this book was in a positive way, which means that, as I told you, there are reasons for everybody, for rational people, to keep some hope. If I told you 10 years ago that such a book would have been written in Greek, maybe one will consider that this is a fallacy, this will never happen. Yet it happened. And not only it happened, but this book was discussed in big Greek newspapers, this book was discussed in interviews, so the result is positive, which means that slowly, people are changing. Times, as Bob Dylan says, are changing. And this is the hope we can bring, here, there, and everywhere.
Yes. Mr. Professor Christopoulos, I wish you all the good luck with your book, and thank you for this interview.
I thank you very much.